player test positive for COVID-19. The only one, and that Pete Carroll's extremely proud of it. Good on them. Now, how was the football? Carson Wentz struggling. That ain't it. 2nd and 5 early. Later in the first quarter, they're still scoreless after the Eagles defense made some big plays and some 4th downs. Dallas Goedert was beating Bobby Wagner. The ball hung up there for about 20 minutes, and Wagner caught up. But we got Jalen Hurts, the rookie, 2nd-round pick. He comes in. This looks good, right? Alshon Jeffrey, his first catch of the season. Okay, about 6 yards, and then he takes him out. So then Carson comes back in. Look at that. Look at the first 5 drives. -1 yard, and you're playing Russ. At some point, Russ is going to Russ, especially when he sees this dude with the pacifier running over the middle of the field. Got it. It was DK versus Slay.
See how he put that ball in front of him, Kyle? See how Russ put that ball in front of him?
Let him run under it, right? Just like this.
Yep.
This is great coverage here, of which the Eagles had a few times last night. It doesn't matter. David Moore, touchdown, got it. So you let the Seahawks have some time, and they start doing this. Chris Carson, he's been gone, and he is back. We will see you tomorrow for a Wednesday edition of Angry Runs. So many other backs would have just gone down there at the 1 of the 2 and said, we'll get the touchdown the next play. Carson is not wired that way.
Yeah, Pete.
There's Pete. Pete, look, he's back at Heritage Hall. Glendale White, 4th quarter. Doug Peterson is going to go for it on a 4th and 4, down 11 points, not take the field goal, and just no. Intercepted. And look at that touchback, and then we're going to flap. It's a touch flap. Intercepted by Quandre Diggs. Carson Wentz with the classic angry chin strap rip, and the handshake with Russell Wilson, who just beat him again for the 2nd straight time in Lincoln Phi. Eagles are 3-7-1. And whoo, baby, we got to hear from Peterson, and we got to hear from Wentz. What the heck's going on out here?
We just didn't make the plays. I don't think it was scheme. I don't think it was a lot of those things. We just didn't make enough plays and win enough of our one-on-ones, and I didn't, make enough plays or make enough good throws. So, that's just how it was tonight. It was frustrating.
We haven't had the consistency and the continuity that you would like week in and week out. That, you look at offenses around the league that have stayed together and have stayed healthy. There's continuity and there's consistency there, and we just haven't had that this season. And it's something that we don't make excuses for it. It's where we are, and we have to get better.
3rd straight loss for those Eagles. Our own Mike Garafolo tweeting this after the game. I've said here and elsewhere recently, Doug Peterson's job isn't in jeopardy. I can't say that with any confidence anymore. Jeff Lurie isn't happy at all, and performances like tonight will have him seriously assessing his coach's status. It is that time of the year. Schrags, they're 3-7-1. I think a fair question is, are they the biggest disappointment in the NFL this season? What do you make of that report?
Yeah, the report, that's going to be in the wind all this week. We'll get to that throughout the next couple of weeks, but maybe the least entertaining team in all of football. Maybe the least watchable team in all of football. Merrill Reese is the radio personality who does the games. Icon, but pretty straightforward. Not usually one for sarcasm, right? Says the Eagles head to Lambeau Field next week to play the Green Bay Packers. Parental discretion is advised. That's what Merrill Reese said to end the broadcast last night. It was that bad. We could talk about Miles Sanders just not being a part of the offensive game plan. We could talk about the fact that they drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside instead of DK Metcalf in the draft last year and what that decision was. But I want to just talk about game decisions, game management.
What you got?
4th and 4, 4th quarter. This game is still a possibility. Down 11. And the decision is that down 11. You take a field goal. Maybe you can cut it to 8. 4th and 4. They haven't been able to connect at all. And this was the play call. And then later it was like, well, Dallas Goedert was supposed to do this and maybe that. That was symbolic of everything for the Eagles. Not sure why they went for it there. It didn't really make sense as far as any of the analytics would go. Don't understand the play call. Don't understand the pass decision by Carson Wentz, who should still not be making those mistakes. And when it comes down to it, I have no faith this Eagles team's going to get any better. There was no point in last night's game where I was like, oh, the Eagles are going to come back here. The one thing that's good, their defense was great last night. I know DK Metcalf had a good day. Their defense was awesome. I feel bad that it was squandered on such horrendous offensive play. And I feel for Eagles fans, this should be the year you should run away with the division.
Parental discretion advised?
From the play-by-play guy who's employed by, I think.
That's ridiculous. That's like the old NWA album.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have some NWA, some nastiness with attitude. But the defense did play well, offense didn't. And I'm looking at Carson Wentz, and I'm not going to sit there and blame Carson Wentz, even though I feel like he presses. He's trying to do too much. And there are moments I actually feel bad for Carson Wentz. I'm looking at him and what I perceived him as a couple of years ago, and then certain points in the game, third down, fourth down, him lining up at wide receiver and Jalen. Like, imagine that for a second. You're supposed to be a franchise face. You're one of the top paid athletes in the entire NFL, and they line you up at wide receiver on a crucial down. It really left me scratching my head. But when it comes to the cohesiveness and the chemistry, they haven't had that. So as much as I can say, Carson Wentz, you're doing too much, I also feel like we have to scale back on just wanting to get rid of everybody. All right, let's get rid of Carson Wentz. Let's figure out how much cap is gonna, if we end up, let's get rid of Peterson. You know what? They just won a Super Bowl a couple of seasons ago. Let me just talk to the fans that are calling for Carson Wentz's head. Let me talk to the fans that are calling for Doug Peterson's head. You fire your head coach, you're going to hit a hard reset. And you think you're at the bottom now, you'll be at the bottom for a long time. I don't care who you find as a head coaching candidate. Just relax. You guys have been through a lot, just like a lot of teams. You guys have dealt with a lot. There's some things that need to be fixed. It starts with your quarterback, then it works its way down. Don't start pointing to the sideline trying to get rid of guys.
I don't think they should just chuck them out either, but let's go. I mean, 3-7-1. They're going to get hammered by the Packers. Then they're going to get hammered by the Saints. I'm not even going to give them a chance. I'm just conceding. They're going to be 3-9-1. So
really?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to get hammered. Unless there's a major change made. And everybody's screaming, put in Jalen Hurts, let's go. At least give him a shot. You spent a second-round pick. Why? It was really weird when they did. It's early on in the game. Wentz looks awful. The offensive line looks awful, so they put him in.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts comes out. There's Wentz standing on the sideline. Jalen Hurts lines up. All right, here we go. Let's start the sensation, start the party. Everybody line up. We've been practicing this for weeks. And he completes a 6-yard pass. Okay, that's fine. So what's he do on the next play? They pull him out of the game immediately, and what happens on this play? Wentz runs around and is sacked, like on every other play. And then, so we're reaching the point where, Nate, you said something during commercial where it's more challenging to talk about the teams now because we've talked about them for months. I feel like Doug Peterson's the same way. Yeah, he's running out of things to say. Because afterwards, they're like, why didn't you play Jalen Hurts more? He says, well, because the offense couldn't get going. There were too many 3-and-out, so we couldn't get him in. So you're saying you didn't put the backup quarterback in because the starting quarterback was so bad? This is the snake eating its tail. It's like, well, the offense was so terrible, so he couldn't. No, that's why you put him in, Doug. And what are you waiting for? It's very frustrating. If you're not going to put him in and you're just going to die in that hell, fine. Put him number one, he completes a play, and then, all right, get back out. Why? Yeah. It's very confusing. They're very bad. We'll see you in a couple weeks, the 3-9-1, and see if they can put this thing together, but I doubt it.
Not going to get much easier at Packers than the Saints, than at Cardinals. Gentlemen, read them and weep. Tom Pelissero joining us right now. Tom, Ravens-Steelers was supposed to actually be played tonight, a little Tuesday night football. It got pushed again. What's the latest?
Postponed for the third time, Kay, allowing the NFL's medical experts to get another day of COVID-19 testing data. Also allow the Ravens players to get back in the building for some conditioning work to try to avoid some of the soft tissue injuries that might pop up after such a long layoff. This move also forced a couple other games to be shuffled. So here is now the latest version of the schedule. The Ravens-Steelers game now set for 3:40 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. Why 3:40 p.m.? Well, NBC has the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting. They're not going to interfere with that, so they'll play the game early. The Washington at Steelers game gets bounced back a day. They'll now be at 5 p.m. on Monday. Then the Cowboys-Ravens game, which initially was supposed to be this Thursday, then got pushed back to next Monday. It now will be next Tuesday at 8:05 p.m. Eastern. As for the Ravens, they did get back in the building yesterday, had a socially distanced walkthrough and conditioning session. Another walkthrough set for today before they are scheduled to travel to Pittsburgh tonight. Now, these are medical decisions, not competitive decisions when it comes to rescheduling games. That's why the Ravens-Steelers game has now been bounced back 3 times, and the Broncos were told you're playing even though they had no quarterbacks. But there are competitive implications from some of these changes. For the Ravens, running backs J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram, who would not have been allowed to play last Thursday or this past Sunday or even tonight, they will be eligible to play in tomorrow's game because their 10-day isolation period after a positive COVID-19 test will be over. That is potentially a big boost for Baltimore at a time the Ravens will still be down a dozen players, including their quarterback, Lamar Jackson.
Very well explained. Thank you so much for joining us, Tom. You'll be here, of course, all day on NFL Network as things continue to unfold in this tumultuous season. We've got guests on the way. Saquon Barkley, Scott Pioli, Andre Johnson. Love that.